Hey, everybody. Testing, making sure the microphone works. Uh, all right. The time is 7 o'clock. The day is Sunday, and we're here. And we're going to be talking about a subject that needs to be brought up. And we need to all understand how important this information is. When we're talking about exposing the life that was Jeffrey Epstein, we're finding that there's a whole lot going on behind the scenes to keep the real information from coming out. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. What is it about the Jeffrey Epstein list that we don't already know? We already know quite a bit about what's happening and what's been going on. So let me introduce you to this young guy right here. He's pretty amazing and he says some really interesting things. I want you to hear what he's got to say, and we'll be talking about some other people too. So let's start off with this young guy.
Push that button, do you know what's going to happen? Pushing that button will expose what was really happening with Jeffrey Epstein. And what was really happening with Jeffrey Epstein is that he worked for Mossad and for Israel. And we can go into that a little bit in a moment here. We're not going to try to prove the whole point. That's a whole other show. And I have done that show before, several times. But let's think it through. Because if you push the button and actually release the real Epstein files, what does that do to Israel's relationship with America? How could you possibly claim that Israel is our greatest ally if it is exposed in the public square that not only did they target us with espionage straight up to the president of the United States, but it was espionage of the darkest, most disgusting order that involved child sex trafficking, raping, and killing of children, American children, on behalf of getting blackmail to serve a foreign nation. That is what the Jeffrey Epstein network was. And it's probably still operating on some degree with a different handler or representative. Okay? And if that were exposed, how would that change the American public sentiment about Israel? I can only imagine that we would stop giving them aid money. And we would probably stop considering them an ally. To me, that's not an ally. To me, that's our greatest enemy. That's our greatest threat. That is a level of subversion and espionage that throughout the entire Cold War, the Soviet Union never even approached achieving. And the Soviet Union was our greatest enemy ever.
Yeah, you can see that what he's saying is hard to some of the things that we got to learn are hard lessons to learn, and the truth is what's going to actually set us free. Right now we're at the beginning of a whole dynamic shift in our collective consciousness. The collective consciousness is starting to ask these questions, and we need time to let some of this information sink in. Some of us have been doing this since all the way back to I woke up August 17th, 2003. My mind became still and I became full of cosmic consciousness, the resurrected power of Christ consciousness that I am was what I was living in, a state of bliss for quite a few years. And at about 2006, I started hearing little rumbles about I was too happy. And I think it was about 2007 is when I was forced to look at the evil in the world. I had no intention at that point, but a man brought out uh, an option, and I listened to his option, and he said that type of evil, man could come in here, and we were in a room with a lot of ex pastors and preachers, and he said my my love, my peace wasn't real, and he said my youngest daughter was with us. And he used this. He said, "What if someone come in here and held us at gunpoint and raped your daughter in front of you? What would you do then?" And I thought about it for a few minutes, and I knew he wouldn't accept the answer. But I told him that the fight has already been fought at that level, that anyone walking up to this cabin would feel an energy of dis-ease in their body, and they would choose not to take on this particular cabin. And he didn't like the answer. But it's the truth. When we live in this power of the resurrected power of Christ consciousness, we can persuade things to go our way. But he did rattle me to my bones, down to the very essence of my DNA. Yes. So I looked deep into reality because he said, evil is in this world and you are denying it. You're denying it. And that got me. So one of the things I delved into once I got my hands on a computer and the internet was what really happened 9/11, what really went down. Now, I asked Father, Mother God to reveal to me true evil, and it did. And that's what we're talking about tonight, true evil. And it is in this reality. I could choose to be separated from it, or I can choose to expose it. And I'm going to expose it the best that I can, the ways that I can. And through time, everyone's going to know that the, it's just a matter of time before full disclosure. Right now, we're getting a little leaked in here, leaked out there, but that's what these videos are about, to bring you more in tune with where the real evil in the world is. It's not what we've been thinking or told or taught. All right, let's listen to him say something about this evil.
Never even came close to that level of subversion and compromise of our nation. Right? And yet today, we are sending our own tax dollars by the billions to this foreign nation. We are passing laws in our country that limit freedom of speech, the First Amendment, on behalf of that foreign country. We are shaping our entire international global geopolitical policy on behalf of that other country that has all of this blackmail. Right? And right now, we are expecting for Pam Bondi and Kash Patel to press that button. And will they actually do it? Right? It's a lot easier to consider the answer to that question when it's Iran or Russia or China, right? It's a whole different question when it's Israel. And we'll come back to our panel in just a second here. But right now, just for a second, I want to speak directly to these two. There's actually a third there, which is a whole other rabbit hole that we're not going to go into tonight. But Kash Patel and Pam Bondi, if the Jeffrey Epstein files directly implicate Israel as the primary operator of this blackmail ring, would you press that button? Because Israel was the prime operator, not the only operator, but the prime operator. And we'll talk about that in a second, and we'll explain some reasoning there. But as you get these files and look at them and discover that it is the truth, you're going to be faced with this exact question. Would you press that button knowing that it will have irrevocable implications for the entire future of Israel, by extension, the entire future of the Jewish people? Would you press that button and release those files? That's the question that's on everybody's mind right now. And that has always been intentionally smeared as one of the most deeply anti-Semitic things that you can say. And that is for very good reason, that they target that specific question as one of the greatest pieces of anti-Semitism one could ever utter. So let's be clear. I do not hate Jewish people. I have no problem with Jewish people. I do not judge people based upon their race, their color, their religion, their gender, any of that. I interact.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly with what he's saying. I am not against Jewish people. I'm not against the truth of what it is that has to be tippy-toed around in such a way that to expose Jeffrey Epstein and who he was working for leads us on the edge of being judged for coming against a race of people. That's not the case. It's not the people. Now, I don't know if he keeps getting into it and says what it is, but it's not the people. That's like saying the United States is the people are guilty for war crimes against endless numbers of wars that have been endless wars that have killed millions in Iraq and Iran, Afghanistan, in places where they weren't really our enemy. It was a stage. The whole world can be lied to and told Russia is our enemy, China is our enemy. And it's not the Jewish people, but it's the entities that are behind the lies and the ones that have spun spells with their spoken words that have the power to use information like Jeffrey Epstein was gathering on these people and held them in blackmail, even replaced them. That's a tough one to talk about, but yes, people can be replaced and with a look-alike, and that looks and acts just like the individual that was replaced. The technology is way above what we've ever been told. That's how they've controlled the whole game of the reality of this simulated holographic reality with the controlling the collective mind consciousness. And by doing that through mind control, they've been able to have their way and make us believe things that are insane. All right, let's hear what he's got to say.
With people as individuals, and I judge them based upon their individual actions, ideas, decisions. And everyone that's met me can attest to that. And right now, Pam, Cash, I'm looking at you. The whole American people, the whole world is looking at you. And we already know what Jeffrey Epstein was doing. We already know what's in the files. Hopefully there's some extra in the files. But what is available publicly, just by researching the truth through primary sources, publicly available information, even just by the most basic acts of logic, we already know who Jeffrey Epstein worked for. Dan Bongino recently said on the podcast, maybe it was Tim Pool, right? I think it was on Tim Pool. Dan Bongino said that he had this inside source that told him when he was at Fox News, blah, 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 that Epstein was working for a foreign country in the Middle East. I don't know what country, but he was working for a foreign country in the Middle East. Really, Dan? Really? You don't know what country in the Middle East Jeffrey Epstein was working for? Let's pull up our Epstein notes and just do a little thinking. We have a Zionist Jewish billionaire paired with the ex-prime minister of Israel, a Zionist Jewish millionaire, paired with the daughter of one of the most infamous Mossad spies in history, who is also a Zionist Jewish millionaire before he was mysteriously killed, bankrolled by one of the world's richest and most prominent Zionist Jewish billionaires. And by Zionist, I don't just mean saying that they support Israel. I mean that Leslie Wexner has devoted his entire life to giving millions and millions and millions of dollars to organizations specifically designed to promote Israel's interests around the world. Organizations specifically designed to creating propaganda tours for people that visit Israel. Organizations specifically designed to bringing Jewish Zionist billionaires together from around the world to further Israel's interests. I mean, spending millions of his own dollars operating a global child sex trafficking ring on behalf of his buddy Jeffrey Epstein, targeting mostly American officials, as well as a few British, a few around the world, for sure. But as far as I'm aware, they weren't targeting Benjamin Netanyahu. And so to the commenter earlier that said maybe Jeffrey was actually working for the CIA. And actually, Israel's the canard, and it's actually backwards. I would not expect to see the trafficking ring targeting the president of the United States and not the prime minister of Israel if that were the case. And let's be real. Do we really think, are we really to believe, are you trying to tell me that a giant group of entirely Jewish Zionist billionaires and millionaires, some of whom have direct linkages to Israel's secret intelligence services, you're telling me that they're going to be working for an Arab or Muslim nation? Some people have tried to float around Saudi Arabia. I mean, certainly less retarded of an idea than working for Iran. But you're trying to tell me that these Jews, these Zionists, in this case, they are actually all Jews as well, although who knows how religious they really are. In this case, we're supposed to believe that these people who devoted everything else in their lives to Israel, like to the point of Leslie Wexner set up foundation on foundation on foundation, put millions of dollars towards Israel. But when he did the child sex trafficking ring, he did that for Saudi Arabia. He just did everything else for Israel. Someone please explain the logic of that logic. What? And so now the other side of that. Certainly, he didn't only work with Israel. The Mossad and the CIA have been joined at the hip since they were both founded back in the 40s. And if you study up on your history of the CIA and you do some research, I mean, these books included, there are lots of books, lots of stuff online. If you do your
Yeah, if you do your research, you'll find out that we're being lied to about everything, and that's just the facts. The CIA had to do with paperclip, and paperclip had to do with the end of World War II and who got the brain trust of the Nazis. And yeah, that sent us down a rabbit hole for a long history of interworking with Israel becoming a state and then becoming invested in protecting their true identity. So they formed, along with CIA, Mossad, and we've been in trouble ever since, as far as our thinking. Now, once you take control over your thinking and you put your love and your trust in Mother, Father, God, the creator source of all things that are eternal. Nothing of this world is eternal except that animates and gives you life in the beat and the breath of your heart, down to the very atoms of your being. You are a light body being. So as long as we are in this reality and we can't break the spell, we have to do our research and wake up to the truth. Why is it that way? Well, time will tell. Listen to this. This gives you a big piece of it.
In the 1990s, and I said that the West really doesn't understand militant Islam. So I wrote a book in 1995, and I said that if the West doesn't wake up to the suicidal nature of militant Islam, the next thing you'll see is the militant Islam is bringing down the World Trade Center. I said that the West really doesn't understand militant Islam. So I wrote a book in 1995, and I said that if the West doesn't wake up to the suicidal nature of militant Islam, the next thing you'll see is the militant Islam is bringing down the World Trade Center.
But for right now, evil is in this world, and the perpetrators of 9/11 are the very thing that use the technology and the dirty deeds of Jeffrey Epstein to keep people silenced through blackmail.
Let me tell you a story about a 10-year-old girl that wanted to make the world a better place.
I'm here because I care. I'm here because children everywhere are suffering, and because 40,000 people die each day from hunger.
Rachel Corrie died as a US citizen defending Palestinian homes in Gaza. They were being demolished, and Rachel Corrie refused to let it happen. This took place on March 16th, 2003, 21 years ago. This didn't begin on October 7th.
On the 30th of January, the Israeli military bulldozed the two largest water wells, destroying over half of Rafah's water supply. In the time that I've been here, children have been shot and killed every few days, if not every day. Houses are demolished. What I'm witnessing here is a very systematic destruction of people's ability to survive, and that is incredibly horrifying.
Rachel Corrie represented the conscience of humanity.
Sometimes I'm sitting down to dinner with people and I just realize that there is a massive military machine surrounding them and trying to kill these people that I'm having dinner with and who are being very generous and kind to me and their children here who are incredibly threatened.
Through her, that basic aversion to watching human suffering was channeled, and she gave her life for the Palestinian cause. Her body was crushed so extensively that her organs stopped functioning. Israelis mocked her death, producing pictures of Rachel Corrie as a pancake. Her grieving parents organized a campaign to fight for justice. Caterpillar, the company which made the bulldozer which crushed her body, hired the private intelligence company C2I to infiltrate the campaign for justice and to spy on Rachel's parents. C2I International was founded by former helicopter pilot in British Special Forces, Justin King. His company illegally garnered information about the Corries' legal strategy and infiltrated meetings with the Corrie parents. At the same time, the organization Rachel Corrie had been part of, the International Solidarity Movement, was being infiltrated by the British state. The Special Demonstration Squad, known as Spike Ops, dispatched somebody who went by the name of Rob Harrison. His early mobilizations had been as part of the ISM's response to the killing of Rachel Corrie.
As you can see, diabolical stories that are, this is years and years have gone by and nobody has even asked the good questions about who is behind this type of evil and why are they perpetrating these things that make absolutely no sense.
This is a real wake-up call to the whole world. The dream of greater Israel is within touching distance. Trump.
All right. I don't know if you noticed, but Trump pushed the seat in. It was a telltale sign of some type of message in time for people to see.
Described Gaza as,
Gaza is a hellhole right now. It's all death in Gaza. Nothing but death and destruction.
while the man responsible for these war crimes and wanted on an arrest warrant by the International Criminal Court was sitting 3 feet away grinning. Trump said he would transfer 1.8 million Palestinians. I'm not sure how he comes to that figure. There are 2.3 million Palestinians in Gaza. What happens to the rest? Are they all killed?
We're talking about probably 1,000,007 people, 1,000,007, maybe 1,000,008. But I think all of them, I think they'll be resettled.
This is ethnic cleansing by presidential decree.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it.
And turn it into
the Riviera of the Middle East. Gaza is interesting. It's a phenomenal location. On the sea, best weather. Some beautiful things could be done with it.
This announcement doesn't come totally out of the blue. Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, has mused that Gaza would make absolutely superb Mediterranean beachfront property.
In Gaza's waterfront property, it could be very valuable. From Israel's perspective, I would do my best to move the people out and then clean it up. If I was Israel right now, I would just bulldoze something in the Negev. I would try to move people in there. I know that won't be the popular thing to do, but I think that that's a better option to do so you can go in and finish the job.
Well, we all know that Trump is being bankrolled by Zionist billionaires. We also know that he's filled his cabinet with people who just simply parrot Israel's talking points. He's appointed an ambassador in Mike Huckabee who believes that there's no such thing as a Palestinian.
There really is no such thing as, and I have to be careful in saying this, because people who really go, there's really no such thing as a Palestinian.
He's appointed a defense secretary in Pete Hegseth who says that a third temple should be built where the Al-Aqsa Mosque now is.
The declaration of Jerusalem as the capital was a miracle, and there's no reason why the miracle of the reestablishment of the temple on the Temple Mount is not possible.
That's the kind of things that make you go, what in the hell is he about? When we should be talking about who is behind Jeffrey Epstein, and did he work for Mossad, and was Mossad involved in 9/11? And what kind of proof do you have to begin to arrest anybody? Ghislaine Maxwell is the only one with the crimes of Jeffrey Epstein that has been jailed. And the truth has got to come out about this type of thing. We're headed straight into what they want and desire. And I'll just go ahead and just counter their actions with reaction, because they want Armageddon. They want religious war. But you see, both sides of the religion is a lie. The actual teaching of biblical proofs, and then teach the counter opposite of it in the form of Abrahamic teaching of the Talmud. It doesn't make any sense. When you have a race of people that don't know who they are and their identity, you got a problem. What does it take to find love in the hearts of everyone that want to seek peace? These people that are in the front are not the ones that are really in control. They are the puppet masters. They are the ones that have been blackmailed, and they're doing the doings for the ones that are in the background that are worshiping Lucifer, a power that is opposed to love. It's a part of the reality that has to take place, like a war of good and evil, when there's no need for war. There's only truth. But when you got men sitting in high places thinking there's somebody and something, knowing that they're guilty of a lot of things Jeffrey Epstein's got on them, and they have to do what they're doing, we can forgive them and erase all this negativity just with a simple understanding that the teaching of Yeshua ben Joseph is not for just anyone, it's for everyone. You want to treat people with dignity, and you want to love them. You want to help people awaken to this conscious reality that they've been lied to by a power of a Luciferian, Anunnaki, Nephilian bloodline that has intermingled with the blood families that are on the thrones, kings, and high places. And that has to be systematically exposed. Not that we want harm to come to anyone. We want the truth to come out about what's going on in this reality.
National religious right, their dreams of greater Israel are within touching distance. Trump may dress this up as in sort of fake concern for the Palestinians.
I think they'll be resettled in areas where they can live a beautiful life and not be worried about dying every day.
Of course they deserve to live in a decent life, but they also deserve to live in their own homes, and they also deserve to live in their own land. Who can possibly think that this is now just a fight between Israel and Hamas or Israel and Gaza? This is Israel, America, against the entire Palestinian people.
I've said this before, I'll say it again. You are the greatest friend Israel has ever had in the White House.
I'm starting to understand why Benjamin Netanyahu accepted a ceasefire deal when there was so much opposition to it at home. For Netanyahu, the sight of Hamas in pristine Toyota Jeeps and new uniforms, evidently in control of Gaza, and releasing the hostages who were in good shape was deeply, deeply humiliating. And Netanyahu obviously did not want this to go on. He's now persuaded the American president to allow him to pull the plug on any further hostage release. What incentive has he given Hamas even to continue with the current stage 1 ceasefire and to honour its commitments if America tears up everything negotiated? And this makes Trump's push for a ceasefire around the time of his inauguration even more cynical a gesture, because he wasn't even serious about getting the hostages back. Pledges he made to families of the hostages with whom he surrounded himself in. He used them basically as stage props for his inauguration. But you can't have a continuing hostage release and war and greater Israel at the same time. It's one or the other. And what a
Just not sold to the awakened people. Now, the ones that are still believing and watching the mainstream news, they're getting their dose of reality the way they see it.
Over the last year, we have witnessed what is the greatest crime of the 21st century. And perversely, it's a crime that has been meticulously documented and presented to us by the people who are carrying it out. We at Al Jazeera have collated all that evidence, packaged it. What it reveals is truly shocking. We focus on the town of Gaza which is a small town of about 13,000 people. The Israeli army enters this town just after Christmas. It's emptied of people, and they simply destroy it. And they record themselves doing it. They post before and after videos, and the town is entirely flattened. There is no precedent for this in the whole history of the Israeli army. We have become addicted to explosions. The willful destruction of civilian property for punitive reasons, or even perhaps to create a buffer strip, is illegal. You can't do that. It's against international law. And they're doing it, and they're recording it, and they're putting it on Facebook. And we know the names of the soldiers and the commanders who did it. They go into the homes of Palestinians, and they're often clearly staying there, and they just smash them up. And they film themselves smashing them up. They also delight in going through women.
Exposing this activity. I don't, and I don't have a desire to make harm come to anyone that has done this crazy, stupid stuff. But the way I want you to see and hear is through telling stories. And when I tell a story and show you video that's telling the story, it makes it more true. So that's my purpose.
Women's underwear drawers, and this is a sort of recurring obsession. You have to see Israeli soldier videos in the context of the broader output of Israeli society.
If you gave me a button to just erase Gaza, every single living being in Gaza would no longer be living tomorrow, I would press it in a second. I would press it right now. Give me that button and press it right now.
There you go.
And I think most Israelis would.
There's an Israeli song called This Was My Home. And what they would do is dress up as caricatures of obviously what they perceive Palestinians to be, being sung mockingly to people who no longer have homes. We're not looking at some sort of obscure subculture within Israeli society. This is mainstream Israeli society. When people tell you who they are, believe them.
It's an entire nation out there that is responsible. And we will fight until we'll break their backbone.
972 magazine carried a story about how the Israelis were using AI, artificial intelligence, for targeting. Essentially, they had a problem. They wanted a rate of strikes in the Gaza Strip, which human computation couldn't keep up with. They needed to use AI to identify these targets. They're using people's phones and their social media, any information at all they can scrape about them, and then they track them through their phones. So who are they talking to on their phone? Who are they simply near as they're carrying their phones around? And they have a little league table. And if you accumulate enough points, you can be killed. The terrifying thing is, how do you kill them? Where do you kill them? And they reached the calculation that it's much easier to kill people when they're at home, which is where the second bit of software kicks in, which is called Where's Daddy? The naming is indicative of a fairly dark sense of humour. They track you. Once Daddy is home, they can kill you. And of course, along with anyone else who is in the house as well. It's astonishing what Israeli soldiers do put on film, but that raises the question of what they don't put on film. You very rarely see them actually fighting. Every now and then you'll see them all firing their guns, but usually pretty clear there's no incoming. On the other hand, what you see a great deal of is them dressing up in women's underwear. Has Israel managed to destroy Hamas? I would point to a really simple, common sense thing. Israeli soldiers have posted thousands of videos online. The IDF, the Israeli army, repeatedly posts videos online. Scour those videos for the bodies of dead fighters, and there's remarkably few. I remember 20 years ago in Afghanistan when the Taliban fell, before the age of social media, and I remember making films about that, footage with piles of corpses. It's extraordinary how few dead Hamas fighters we are seeing. Another extraordinary facet of this conflict is the repeated attacks on hospitals. They have assaulted every single one of the 36 hospitals.
He said every one of the 36 hospitals. I said that in my thinking and maybe verbalized it to a few people. It is incredible at the minds of the unconscious when you try to tell them that out of all the hospitals, they attacked all of them. It's just not It's just not coming from human beings. This type of evil comes from a diabolical demon. So now we're introducing the fact that the perpetrators of this evil are not human. They're fifth and sixth dimensional demons that have figured out a way to take over the bodies of these individuals. It's that diabolical.
In the Gaza Strip, we have the films of Mohammed al-Halou, a remarkable young journalist who really chronicled the whole story of the Nasser hospital. The Israelis are very keen to drive people taking refuge in the hospital out, to force them further south. They send a messenger into the hospital to order the people there to leave, and they use a detainee. And they've made it quite clear to him, they know who his mother is, where she is, and that she will be killed if he does not return. So he does return. They send him back because the people still aren't leaving. People aren't leaving because they don't trust the Israelis. One of the few people who does leave is his mother. She follows him out with a small group of other people, and he's killed in front of her eyes, having used him as a messenger, as a human shield, effectively. They simply shoot him. They shoot him 3 times in front of her eyes and kill him. What is extraordinary about so many of the soldiers' videos is the sense of impunity they have. One particular video is the 202nd paratroopers. When they left Gaza, individuals within that unit put together a video. It's like a commemorative video, and it's edited and it's set to music and so on. It's been up on YouTube now for 6 months. It includes 3 men, separate incidents, men who are shot by snipers. They are putting up the killing of people who are clearly unarmed. And for soldiers to post this in their own names shows a sense that they simply don't have to account for their actions at all. Deaths by snipers are very common in the Gaza Strip, and it's not just adult men. There's a particular shot of a child, a young boy.
It has to be what I said. The ones that are doing these types of dirty deeds are demons.
972 magazine carried a story about how the Israelis were using AI, artificial intelligence, for targeting. Essentially, they had a problem. They wanted a rate of strikes in the Gaza Strip, which human computation couldn't keep up with. They needed to use AI to identify these targets. They're using people's phones and their social media. Any information at all they can scrape about them. And then they track them through their phones. So who are they talking to on their phone? Who are they simply near as they're carrying their phones around? And they have a little...
Now, I wanted to play that again so you get a gist of the AI system that they use to track these people. And then they bring them home, and they literally have a way of tracking these people. It's sad. Where's daddy? And they use, when daddy comes home, they blow up the whole home. Now you tell me that these soldiers are on our side in America would do this to what they considered an enemy combatant on the homeland. I never liked that word when they said it at the beginning. It didn't make no sense then and don't make no sense now. It takes really good people in the military to root out the bad people. Maybe that's what's going on behind the scenes, a war that is getting rid of the demons. Wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be something if that was what was really happening? We got to pray. We got to hope and have faith that this type of insanity has to go away. All right, let me see what I got keyed up.
Andressen Horowitz is Wiz, founded by Asaf Rappaport, a former high-ranking officer from Unit 8200, the military intelligence signals section of the Israeli occupation forces. So here is an organization that is directly invested in Israeli intelligence companies, also funding Donald Trump at the same time. How could we not mention Elon Musk? His company, SpaceX, donated to the Donald Trump presidential campaign almost $120 million. Now, what is Elon Musk's relationship with Israel? What many do not know is that his company, SpaceX, launched several satellites for Israeli company ImageSat International. Now, ImageSat International is not only led by reserves in the Israeli military and former employees of Israel's largest company, Elbit Systems, but it is a key source for Israeli Unit 9900, which is the Visual Intelligence Unit. ImageSat International and the spy satellites which have been launched for it by Elon Musk will be essential to all of its bombing campaigns. In fact, historically, it's known that ImageSat International have been a key part of Israel's thousands of bombing sorties over Syria. The fact that this was not seen as a conflict of interest for Elon Musk to, at the same time, be running X, formerly known as Twitter, but also launching spy satellites to assist in Israel's bombing campaigns, is quite indicative of a wider rot within our media. And
it's that type of information that when you put two and two together, was a good guy or a bad guy, or he's been replaced, and the people around him and him are not who we think they are. That's how this technology and this evil is getting their motives done in the broad daylight, where it says that every dirty deed will be shouted from the rooftop. Who will judge them? Time will tell.
Political classes. Another key funder of Trump is Primerica Distribution, which contributed $5 million to his campaign. Now, Primerica Distribution also funds the key Israel lobby group, the ADL, which has been found to have infiltrated many political groups and spied on pro-Palestinian and Palestinian Americans.
It's all about, right now, the money. And if you follow the money, you will see the truth.
President Trump personally delivers a major update on the Epstein and JFK files, announcing they will be released in just a few weeks. He reveals that after his executive order, the FBI suddenly uncovered 2,000 JFK-related files. Despite any obstacles, Trump assures that every file will be made public. Trump looks very confident here.
Do you see a pattern developing? When you get behind all of this information and you really have a disclosure of, just say, the Kennedys, you'll find out that Mossad and the Israelis were behind the assassination of both Kennedys, the president and his brother, and Martin Luther King Jr., because he was compromised, and that was one of the reasons they took him out. But yeah, it's pretty diabolical.
WMDs. Reverse engineering WMDs, the broader picture from the 1940s onward, the US and its allies weren't just developing weapons, they were testing and modifying them through live experiments on populations and ecosystems. This wasn't limited to nuclear bombs, it included chemical and biological warfare agents. 1. Reverse engineering of chemical weapons Agent Orange and dioxins, originally developed as a defoliant, but its toxic dioxin byproducts revealed how it could disable enemy populations long term. The same tech was refined and reapplied in Mexico's marijuana fields and in other covert operations. PFAS and firefighting foam, marketed for fire suppression, but it mimics nerve agents in its disruption of biological systems, hence why it's still found in bloodstreams and water supplies decades later. Saudi Arabia's pesticide spraying 197-51980, furadan carbofuran and diclorvos weren't just for killing pests. These compounds have direct neurotoxic and endocrine disrupting effects akin to early nerve gas research. Gulf War syndrome depleted uranium, sarin and vaccines. The Persian Gulf conflict provided another testing ground for chemical cocktail exposure, just like Vietnam. 2. Reverse engineering of radiological and nuclear weapon-specific nuclear tests Bikini Atoll, etc., officially to test yield and fallout patterns, but really they were measuring biological impact on Pacific Islanders, US personnel, and even downwind populations Hawaii, West Coast, etc. Hawaii and military radar installations, the high-frequency testing from these facilities ties directly into ionizing radiation studies, understanding the effects of long-term exposure and brain function. Nuclear medicine and targeted radiation exposure. Many nuclear testing victims and their descendants later found themselves being pushed into radiation therapy and experimental treatments, connecting healthcare to military R&D. 3. Biological and psychological warfare testing ultra and mass testing via fluoride, pharma and processed food, while MK-Ultra is mostly associated with LSD and mind control experiments. The broader agenda was to...
A lot of that's tough to take, but that's where we're at. We're here at a point in this reality where it seems like everything that we're being told is a lie. So I want you to breathe in and out and become one with your breath. Still your thinking. Meditate and realize that we've been lied to and we're going to continue to be lied to about this situation for quite a while. If there is such things as good guys, you good guys need to step up and bring on this disclosure before we have no time. While we're stuck in time, things in this world have become out of our control. And to bring everything back into our heart-based center, where we can be the ones that are in control. And there are growing groups around the country and around the world that are awakening to love and peace. It's not humanity's nature to fight. It's the warmongers and the ones that are in control in high places that have lied, stolen, and killing. Then it's got to stop. It's got to stop because people are at nature loving and peaceful and helpful. But yeah, you got demons right now running amok, and it makes all of society question what is real peace. Well, it's when you start loving each other and you recognize Christ in each other. Whether you're religious or not, it doesn't matter. The energy field of the photons that are coming from the outermost center sun of the Milky Way galaxy itself is releasing the photons of love and light. And we're being inundated in this photon belt every day that we move through this time continuum. More and more people are consciously awakening to what truth is. That is the hope of glory for the world, is for people to awaken and become peaceful and still within their mind. And if there are good guys and you're doing your good work, finish up, hurry up, because we need full disclosure about all these events that are tied together. And there is one place that they're pointing to, and that place has to get a grip with what and who they really are. And the madness has got to stop. I love each and every one of y'all, and there is peace. And the truth is that we are loved by our Father, Mother, God. And if anything seems to be out of your control, breathe, take breaths, and still your mind, and ask for your mind to become stiller and calmer, and it will. See you next time. Thank you for watching my channel. Hit that like button and leave a comment. Bye-bye.